I don't know if either one of those guys, if the Browns were to go with a third quarterback, I don't know if they may bring somebody else in to fill that role, but I don't think they do. I think they may just go two and not even go with a third. Because I'll tell you, Tyler Thigpen's doing nothing to get himself a roster spot. That's for sure.
And speaking of roster spots, I did hear that Reed Fragel had something of a knee injury this morning.
Yes.
And he's kind of helped off and walking gingerly on that. I was sorry to hear that. I'm obviously hoping for big things from Fragel. I'd like to see him be, at the very least, the backup right tackle for this team. And who knows if this is a big setback or whatever. I understand also that Gibson is hurt. That doesn't appear to be a serious thing. Am I right?
No, him and Cameron both tweaked and both missing some practice, but should be okay. Fragel, I was going to bring him up because I know that's your boy. I was going to say your boy Fragel went down. They were a bit worried, but he did get up. He walked gingerly off of his own accord, so we'll see more with that. And I got away from it. You were talking about the running game. The one thing that's hard to tell is I think that's one that you can only get limited view on because you still aren't going full bore with, a running attack in a game is going to be totally different than what you simulate in practice, especially with the limited number of live tackling drills and things like that. So I think some of that may still shake itself out once we get into playing some more games. But I think they're beginning to see that they are. I think we know it. They're going to rely heavily, whichever guy wins the running back deal. They're going to rely heavily on that to get you through. And you're going to need that, whether it's Hoyer, whether it's Manziel, whether it's a rookie or whatnot. Which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but Dick LeBeau, who's starting the season against the Browns, he said in a conference call today he's game planning to face Manziel in Week 1. Now, while some of the Manziel fans are throwing this out there as, hey, our boy is gonna be the starter, I'm saying there's a reason that Dick LeBeau said that, and it is not. I don't care what you say. It's not to compliment the Browns and say, oh, Manziel's great. That may be the way it sounds, and that's who he wants. I'm telling you that he may have the more dangerous legs, but Dick LeBeau is licking his chops at getting a rookie quarterback there for the first game and having him deal with things that he's going to have to deal with things that veteran quarterbacks haven't seen before. And so I think part of that is definitely a strategical first launch by Dick LeBeau there when it comes to that. But Mike Pettin today said that it's reasonably acceptable to assume that Brian Hoyer will start the game here, the preseason game this week, but he has not made that decision just yet. But again, I keep saying, even if they end training camp in a dead heat all the way the rest of the way through, by default you have to go with Hoyer at first until the season falls off the rails. The season falls off, then all bets are off and you start developing the young guy. But if there's been no noticeable closing of the gap by Manziel, you got to stick with the guy that's at least going to get the right formation to the line, that's going to get the right blocking called, that's not going to get your running back's leg broken because he gets blown up by a blitzer that he didn't see, and you're not going to get a fumble caused because they didn't see the guy coming here. That, to me, is if nothing else, what will keep Brian Hoyer on the field Week 1.
Yeah, you're probably right. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, didn't catch anything but some little bit of commentary about the Hall of Fame game last night, and the people talk about E.J. Man just looked terrible to get, because I saw some fans look at their chops about Buffalo's first round pick next year, thinking that might be a lot higher than we expected if their quarterback play doesn't get any better than what it was. Did you get a chance to see it, and was E.J. Manuel just that bad, or what was the story?
No, I mean, I watched again, and I can't say that I wasn't having conversations during this as well. So I was like kind of looking and then talking to my son and then looking and checking my phone. And, it wasn't even the Browns playing. It was the Bills and the Giants. So,
right.
But, I actually started paying more attention to the quarterback when Toole came in and he ran a couple of nifty little read option runs there that they had, and I'm like, you know what, this is a good wrinkle in the offense. I don't know about Manuel last night, but I could see him running some of those plays, and eventually, hey, I could see Manziel running some of those plays for the Browns. I mean, that's what I've mentioned before, but when you see him in operation, there's a couple of things that definitely in that read option really do fit his skill set, which is why I'm a proponent of running both quarterbacks out there various times during this season, because I know people say if you got two quarterbacks, you got none. But when you have two that have literally stark, distinct skill sets, then I do believe you can use that as a weapon if you've got a good offensive coordinator. If you don't, then you're just going to screw everything up. But if you got a good OC, you really can give teams multiple things to worry about, you know?
Yeah, and that's true. That may be one very viable, option for Shanahan to just bring in Manziel, if nothing else, for a different look. And I think you're going to probably end up seeing at least some of that because why not? If you can be a little bit less predictable, that's going to be good. And when talk about two quarterbacks which combined have 3 NFL starts. It's not as though you're favoring the rookie over the veteran or the veteran over the rookie. Neither one is the experienced NFL QB. So I guess you don't risk passing up on a whole bunch of experience. Now, hopefully it won't be we see a lot of this stuff going on. Let's get our sea legs and get our feet up under us before we start tinkering with variety. But who knows? The calling, that's Chan's bait, and we'll leave it to him. But it would be nice to force Dick LeBeau to at least lose a little bit of sleep the night before the game.
You're breaking up on me a little bit. You're listening to the Sports Fix. We're talking to Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan, talking a little bit about the Browns as they're in practice this week, getting ready to head into their first preseason game of the season, and we will see, of course. And I think we'll get some more clarity, too, from the coaching staff after they get a chance to sit down and look at, which I will give Mike Pettin, and he has to deal with a very impatient throng of people every time he comes off the field here during camp that are going, who's the starter? Who did better? Johnny, who did better? Brian Hoyer? And he's like, look, I'm not doing this now. I'm not going to come off the field and evaluate these guys when I'm paying attention to 60, 70, 80, 90 guys. I will do this later, and I'm not going to do it. And I give him credit for that, because the first instinct is to go, yeah, this guy did that. And then you go watch the tape, and you go, man, I should have kept my mouth shut. So he's just sitting back and laying it out. So we'll see when they watch the film from this. But here's the other thing to keep in mind when we're talking about both quarterbacks is let's not forget that on every play, the defense knows what play the offense is going to run. Like, there is no hiding that. These guys don't go line up, and they're practicing against specific plays and for specific plays. So it's not like this is a free-flowing scrimmage where the teams are calling things, Like, there was a little bit of that in the scrimmage, some unscriptedness. But for the most part, when the offense knows what play they're going to run, so does the defense, and it's being practiced on both sides of the ball. So keep in mind that it's a lot easier to play defense when you know what the other team is throwing at you too. So from a defense and an offense side, you got to look at that as well when you're looking at this whole thing. When the offense is successful, I think that kind of is even more interesting to me, because the defense knew what you were throwing at them and you were still successful.
That's true, and like I said, we won't know a whole heck of a lot until we see him strap it up and go against another unit. And because they're playing the Lions this weekend, I should be able to figure out some way to watch that game here.
You got to get it up there, right?
In Lion country, it'll be on somewhere, and I'll find myself in front of it, no doubt about it.
How late are you up there? How long are you up there for?
How long? We're gonna be up through the end of the week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we're gonna come back sometime over the weekend. We'll be driving back, so I'll have to figure out a way to watch the Browns and the Lions somewhere in Lions country. But that's what we do, so it's not a problem. Hey, I want to ask you real quick before I let you go. The Gordon thing. I understand he's out there on the field. They had the hearing Friday, and they don't release the decision right away, I take it.
Yeah, that's where we're at. It went all day Friday. They said it carried over into today. He came back when some people thought that he was going to stay in New York. He was on the field practicing today, but he left the field at about 11 o'clock this morning and went in for a conference call to finish the hearing over the phone. I don't know if that... See, I actually thought if he was staying for Monday, I said, man, that bodes well to Josh Gordon maybe getting off of this thing, because, man, he's been there for a whole 8 hours, and then now he's going to be here for part of another day. The fact that they only needed him on the phone for today makes me go, ooh, maybe that's not a good sign for him. Maybe it's just going to be, we gave you as much opportunity as could to make your case. And my gut keeps going back to the fact that it's going to be so easy for the NFL to just say, these are the rules. It's just cut and dry, black and white, and we're going to uphold our punishment, because they can hide behind the CBA when they do that. But, I think the lone saving grace for Josh Gordon is that the Ray Rice situation came up at the same time, which will, from a PR standpoint, apply some pressure. I know the arbitrator can go differently if they want, but, man, I don't know. What does your gut tell you? The fact that they went a whole day and needed a little bit more of another day, because I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, that's a little bit surprising, because you thought that, especially for some of the comments coming out of the office, the NFL office, looking like it was throwing cold water on the whole idea that there might even be any flexibility whatsoever. So I guess any indication that there might be some has got to be viewed as a positive thing from the standpoint of Gordon playing. So, yeah, I guess we'll obviously no knowledge of what's going on, but yeah, the fact that it took so long, and they obviously are wanting to appear to give the appeal a fair hearing and consider it seriously, and that's all got to be working in the Browns' favor. If by saying in the Browns' favor you mean that Gordon some reduction in the mandated penalties. Cleveland are, waiting on bated breath, and we should know what tomorrow. Is that what the thinking is?
You would think, yeah. I would think today, because this is the appeal. So really, there's nothing else. There's no appeal of the decision today. Once they're done, they make the decision, go. So I would think as soon as they have one, they announce it. I could see it coming today, because this isn't like a jury trial where there's going to be a week-long deliberation. You wouldn't think. It's pretty cut and dry arbitration. You made your case, and then we'll release a statement, and maybe tomorrow. But I can't see it. Especially, one of the listeners brought up a good point to me last week, and I never mentioned it. He said, if the story broke in May about this whole thing, why in the hell is it still going on in August? You can say it's because of Josh Gordon's appeal, and that's the way the process goes. Then you need to change the process, because if we knew about it back in the beginning of May, why in the world are we still sitting here dealing with it in August? That's just stupid.
Well, yeah, and that's true. And recall that the only reason we did hear about it was because outside the lines, ESPN,
yes, outside the lines,
original reporting, broke that story, and that's why we were hearing sooner instead of later. But yeah, you're right. It's been on the table that long. So, it's hard to explain. Other than maybe the NFL just work on more like the NCAA.
Why would my thing is just, why would the NFL want you would think you would set the deadline for the appeals process to end before training camp, just as a flat rule. Why would these things drag into training camps where, you can say, well, that's not our fault that the Browns have to deal with that. It's Josh Gordon's fault. Well, the Browns still have to deal with it in training camp. It could still be Josh Gordon's fault, and you could still get it done before training camp.
That's true. There were cases around the league with other players in similar circumstances we heard about 2 and 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And so if that's the time frame for making those decisions, then I guess maybe you'd have to assume that the only reason this was pushed back was the appeal.
My gut tells me, Dan, it's going to be the year. It said it all along. Like, for a minute, when I heard about the A and the B samples and the number being so close, I said, man, maybe they cut him some slack. But, I can see them, especially the way Roger Goodell addressed things this weekend and hid behind things when it came to the Ray Rice. Do you know that he admitted that the NFL never viewed the videotape footage because nobody gave it to them while they were investigating the Ray Rice deal?
Well, I guess investigating, we better put that word in quotation marks then, shouldn't we?
Nobody gave it to them.
If they were investigating at all, they would have had the wherewithal to take a look at that video.
I'm sure you saw the story. It's all over today, where they admitted that that they never, because the police never gave it to them. So